on fear, when you say there's some fear, when you say there's some fear, how must I attend to it? How must I attend to it? You create the opportunity. You create the opportunity to realize yourself through the action of fear, through the action of fear. Now, what the action of fear wants from you. Now, what the action of fear wants from you is really very simple, It wants subservience. It wants subservience. It wants to tell you what to do. It wants to tell you what to do, and to be the slave to fear. And to be the slave to fear is to create a God, that will claim you, not in a highway, but one that will claim you, as what it is. You become fear. You become fear as you become the divine self, as you become the divine self that you truly are through its alignment to you, The same is true for fear. The same is true for fear, and acquiescing to fear. And acquiescing to fear, I should be afraid, is claiming dominion, as the one who chooses, Now Paul interrupts, fear is not necessarily a choice. Fear is not necessarily a choice. Perhaps it's a reaction. Perhaps it's a reaction. Perhaps it's just automatic. We know ourselves as fearful. And we claim ourselves in fear. We will say this to each of you. You are not fearful. You are not fearful until you agree to fear, Do you understand that? Do you understand that is the agreement to fear? It is the agreement to fear that supports fear, How do you not agree to fear? How do you not agree to fear? Lift to the upper room and see what is there, from a neutral perspective. Underline the word neutral. It is either good or bad. It is neither good nor bad. It simply is. And because it simply is, it must be known as of God. It must be known as of God. Because it is of God. Because it is as God. There is no polarization. No good or evil, no good or evil in the upper room. You simply are. You simply be, and you go into agreement, with what simply is. Now it is time to rejoice. It is time to claim anew. It is time to claim anew. It is time to see the world with new eyes. It is time to see the world with new eyes. This is going to be a great opportunity. This is going to be a great opportunity for humanity to realize itself outside of separation. When you are on a battleship and you are seeking to sink the one across the ocean, you understand yourself through war. When you're in a lifeboat, you understand yourself as one. You understand yourself as one with everybody else in the boat, And there is no war now. There is something situational. There is something situational that is actually claiming everybody, in an agreement. Now a singular event that faces humanity, has not been present in an obvious way, for a very long time. You must understand this. Even a war between two countries, or between 10, is not a collective event, And a war itself, indeed made by man, can be ceased by the ones who started it, What you have here is the equivalent of a tidal wave, and everybody is met by it, Some are carried away, almost everyone is drenched, and those of you in the upper room, have a different view, if you choose to take it, if you choose to take it. He interrupts the teaching. He interrupts the teaching. That means we don't get wet in the upper room. That means we don't get wet in the upper room. Is that the high ground? Is that the high ground? Indeed it is in some ways. Indeed it is in some ways. It's the high ground in vibration. It is the high ground in vibration. Now what a virus is. Now what a virus is a low vibrational thing, is a low vibrational thing. And while there is truth, and while there is truth that holding yourself in high vibration, that holding yourself in high vibration supports well-being, supports well-being, immunity in many ways. In many ways, it is not a safety gap. It is not a safety gap. In other words, the one in high vibration, the one in high vibration should not dip her foot into the shark tank to test and see if her high vibration will repel the sharks, possibly not. Possibly not. We don't recommend you try to find out. But we do suggest that how you see anything, how you relate to anything confirms your agreement to it. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? Imagine there was a blackout. All electricity gone. All electricity gone. Some will run in terror. But you instead may say, there is a blackout. There is a blackout. I am getting to have an experience of something I have not known, I know myself in the blackout. And that is impossible. Without your agreement to it. Agreement is always vibrational accord. And because you see something, or an experience of it, or in an experience of it, you're in agreement to it. You are in agreement to it. But from what vantage point do you observe? Now, if you observe in fear, or in terror, or in worry, you gift yourself with those agreements. What you don't have to do is decide that you should not be fearful, because what that does is place you in agreement to should, or mandate, which is incurred by the small self, We will put it rather differently. You can hold your concern. As a parent does when she watches her child in the playground. Sitting on the swing, perhaps precariously. I will take care of my child. I will hold concern. I will act when needed. But I will not be terrified. Do you understand the example? You are making a choice. Of how to know something, or be in relationship to it. Now we must say that what you are perceiving on a world stage, is a mass release of fear, is a mass release of fear. And the release is the key word. The boil has erupted. It is messy. There is a stench. It is not what you want to see or look at. It is not what you want to see or look at, but it is an opportunity. But it is an opportunity for that which was festering, that which was infected, to be seen and known, without the denial, or the cloak that covered it, What you are going to see are ramifications of kindness, of love, and also ramifications of fear playing out simultaneously. And that is not a duality. It is quite simply the humanity. It is quite simply that humanity is processing so much at such a rapid pace, that all they can do is keep up with the moment, and different of those who act one way, or perhaps another, are simply responding at the level of consciousness, they have come to. Now we will say this for Paul. Now we will say this for Paul, you are doing well. You are doing well. Whether or not you agree to it, we will agree to it. We will agree to it. What does well mean? He says. What does well mean? He says you are doing physically well. You are doing physically well, emotionally well, spiritually well. Spiritually well, but it doesn't feel like it some days. Well, it doesn't feel like it some days. It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how you feel. It matters how you be. It matters how you be, and your feelings are only one way. And your feelings are only one way, that you take the temperature, of how you be, your feeling state. Your feeling state in most ways is in agreement to the external stimuli, You felt quite wonderful when you woke up. You felt quite wonderful when you woke up 2 hours later. 2 hours later, you're frightened of 25 things. You are frightened of 25 things, feeling your brow for fever, checking flights home, and looking for places to live here, all at the same time. All at the same time. That is quite true. All at the same time. All at the same time. We will recommend this for you, Paul. We'll recommend this for you, Paul, if you're able to stay here. If you are able to stay here, you will find comfort here. And we say this to you. And we say this to you not because of fear that exists elsewhere, but because of the peace that can be found, outside of the chaos, that is being invoked not so much by the virus, but the response to it. The response to the virus is chaos, because nobody is prepared. For a disruption of sorts, at the level they are going to encounter, underline the word going. There is more to be revealed. This is not bad news or good. It simply is. And to trust the moment you sit in. I am safe in the moment I sit in. I am safe in the moment I sit in, which is all you truly have. Will give you permission to know calm in a storm. The storm may rage about you. But you don't need to meet it. At that level of vibration. Do you understand? I will say this for all of you. Now, we will say this for all of you. You will all have choices to make in the coming weeks. About how to attend to what you read, or what is spoken to you, or what is spoken to you, or perhaps what you are told to invoke, or perhaps what you are told to invoke or act upon. You have been given a method. To support yourself. In these times. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know how I serve. I am free. Now, this is not magic. It is memory. It is acting in accord. It is acting in accord with what is true. It is the presence of the divine. It is the presence of the divine that will claim you, that is greater than any disruption of his, that is greater than any disruption you may face. The claim I am in right will, I am in true will support you acting wisely, Right will is never fearful. It doesn't agree to fear. It will not invite you to do the other thing. It will not invite you to do the same. Do you understand that? Now, some of you will say, well, I've had an experience here. I have had an experience here. I had a vibrational experience. I had a high vibrational experience. What the hell was that about now? But what the hell was that about now? I go home. My kids are screaming. My neighbor is not well. My job may be ending. What am I to do? Here is what you will do. Know who you are. Know what you are. And how you serve. And the work comes through you. This is not placebo. This is the best medicine. This is the best medicine you can take right now because it will support you, in maintaining balance in a storm, in maintaining balance in a storm, not giving into the act of fear, not giving into the act of fear, and not choosing in low vibration, and not choosing in low vibration. There is great opportunity at this time. There is great opportunity at this time for humanity to know itself new, for humanity to know itself anew. We will support humanity in this. We will support humanity in this. We have been preparing for this shift through our students for some time. You are actually preparing yourselves. You are actually preparing yourselves not for what you fear, but for what you are claiming, but for what you have been claiming, to be known, to be fully realized, in the face of change. In the face of change is the gift you bring, in the claim. I know how I serve. I have come. Now self-deceit will play a role here. Because the collective tells you something. You should be afraid. You may go into agreement with it. You may go into agreement with it. But discernment is not fear. And there's a grand difference between the two. Don't touch your neighbor's hand. Don't touch your neighbor's hand. Maybe a discernment, or an act of fear, depending upon the circumstance. Do you understand this? Do you understand this? Your friend is falling. In quicksand. He reaches out his hand. You've been told not to take the hand. You have been told not to take the hand. You should not touch. Take the hand. Do you understand this? Do you understand this? You go to a party. Everybody says, I'm not frightened of this thing. Let's go have a kiss. That is foolhardy. The temperature is not right. For collective mucus and tongue lashing. Save it for another party. Save it for another party some other day when you can really enjoy it. We will watch from the sidelines. And cheer you on. This is not the moment. For the orgy. Wait until fall. Then have several in a row. And love them all. You are not forbidden. From touching those you care about. You are certainly not stopped. From loving or making love. Some of you will find great love. In this strange circumstance. When the masks are off. When it doesn't matter what you've worn to the party. When it doesn't matter what you have worn to the party. When it no longer seems needed. To impress your date with your bank account, or your wonderful looks, You simply are. They simply are. And that is the gift of being. And in truth, that is how love is born. With one you simply be with. Trust this, friends. Trust the times. Trust the times in all their uncertainty. They will bring gifts, yes. They will bring sorrow, yes. But so does any spring. Know that is so. The cycles of birth and death. The cycles of birth and death have been present since humanity walked this earth. Some things don't change. And the opportunities present here. And the opportunities present here, we must suggest outweigh the potential for disaster. We'll explain this, and we will explain this when you realize how you've been operating, in the futility of much of it, and the futility of much of it. You will claim something higher. But when you have been asleep, when you deny what you see, you don't look for change. You look to keep doing as you were taught. as you were taught, as you were told, as you were told, as you think you should, as you think you should, without question, without question. Guess what, everybody? Guess what, everybody? You have come, and your reliance upon the old, and your reliance upon the old is being relegated to what was once an idea, to what was once an idea. The rules change. The rules change. The game changes. The game changes. And the game was the lives you lived. And the game was the lives you lived through collective agreement to what you inherited, when the fissures show up in the earth. When the fissures show up in the earth, when the ground starts to quake, everybody knows what balance really means. Everybody knows what balance really means because you cannot find it. That is how balance is learned. That is how balance is learned on the rocking boat. On the rocking boat, not on the firm terra firma, not on the firm terra firma. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You have been obligated. You have been obligated to what you lived through, were taught by. Get ready for the next chapter. Get ready for the next chapter. Let it be a good one. Let it be a good one. Do not be fearful of death. Do not be fearful of death. It is just an idea. It is just an idea. It doesn't feel that way when you're sick. It doesn't feel that way when you're sick, as he is saying. As he is saying, it feels much better. It feels much better where you go than wherever you have been, than wherever you have been. You can trust that. And you can trust that. There is no fear in death. There is no fear in death. There is only love. There is only love. Now you are not going to die. Now you are not going to die. That is not why we spoke these words. That is not why we spoke these words. We say this for Paul. We say this for Paul, who is running up the mountain behind him, Find somebody else to talk through. Find somebody else to talk through. It is not speaking to death. It is not speaking to death as something imminent, but something that is predictable, at one time, as long as you have a body. It doesn't really matter when. It doesn't really matter when, because guess what? Time isn't what you think it is either. Time isn't what you think it is either. And if you die next Tuesday, or 50 years from now, it is only an idea. It is only an idea of an occurrence, and an idea of time, period. Be careful in the next 2 weeks about what you invoke, and how you invoke it. How you invoke it. Give an example, please. It will be terrible. It will be terrible. It will be horrible. It will be horrible. We are in for a very hard time. We are in for a very hard time. Don't trust anyone. Don't trust anyone. Take care of your own. Take care of your own and no one else. These things invoked are creative acts. They align you to what you see. They align you to what you see. If you wish that, you may have it. You will learn the hard lessons that they bring. The final thing we say before we take a pause, is to trust yourselves, to truly know what you need, to truly know what you need. Trust yourselves to operate in knowing. You have your moment of knowing. As Paul said, I was determined to stay. And then I got that email. I decided to stay. And then someone said, please come home. And then someone said, please come home. You understand yourself through the outcome of your choices, more so than the choices themselves. The outcome of any choice made in fear. The outcome of any choice made in fear is more of the same. It will always be so. To trust the self at this time. Is quite simply to trust that how you choose and what you choose will be in accord with your good. Period. Stop now, please.